news that is reaching us. The first family is announcing from their official residence in Edenview that their son Abel is dead. The death is believed to have occurred today around the time of the sacrifice and was caused by blunt force trauma inflicted by him by his elder brother Cain. The family is requesting for reserve and caution and for empathy and privacy during this difficult time of mourning. Cain, the main perpetrator, is believed to have fled from the scene and his immediate whereabouts could not be established. And as the whole community begins to settle into this reality, we at BBN do express our deepest and most heartfelt condolences. Again, Abel is dead, and the main suspect in the story is his elder brother, Cain. To help us gain perspective on this, our very own reporter, the DC, has been on the ground and was able to file the following report.
Sacrifice. The 9-letter word which means making everything fine, yet at times like today we wonder if it was but a fine. Judiciously taught to every child and diligently observed by every adult. The scene of sacrifice is always sobering, as an innocent animal dies in the place of the animal of sin in the human, and yet every time we are reminded, God did the first one, and He will ultimately do the one that will crush sin and serpent on the head. Cain and Abel, the two most popular sons of the first family. They might be cut from the same cloth, but they couldn't be more diametrically opposed even if they chose to. Abel had a spirit of loyalty to God. He saw justice and mercy in the Creator's dealings with the fallen race and gratefully accepted the hope of redemption. But Cain has been known to cherish feelings of rebellion and has also been heard murmuring against God because of the curse pronounced upon the earth and upon the human race for his parents' sin. Cain supposedly always seemed to walk in the same footsteps as Lucifer, now Satan, indulging the desire for self-exaltation and questioning divine justice and authority. In as far as birth and religious instructions were concerned, these brothers are equal. Both are sinners, and both acknowledge the claims of God to reverence and worship. To outward appearance, their religion is the same up to a certain point, but beyond this point, the difference between the two could not be greater. Being acquainted with the provision made for the salvation of man and understanding the system of offerings which God had ordained, they know that in these offerings they're expressing faith in the Savior whom the offerings typify, and at the same time acknowledge their total dependence on Him for pardon. And they know that by thus conforming to the divine plan for their redemption, they're giving proof of their obedience to the will of God. Without the shedding of blood, there can be no remission of sin, and they're showing their faith in the blood of Christ as the promised atonement by offering the firstlings of the flock in sacrifice, which Abel eagerly provided and buttered the same for Cain's crop. Besides the flock, the first fruit of the earth are usually presented before the Lord as a thank offering. On this particular day, as they were accustomed to doing, the two brothers erected their altars alike, and each brought an offering. Abel presented a sacrifice from the flock in accordance with the Lord's directions, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. Eyewitnesses say fire flashed from heaven and consumed the sacrifice. But Cain, disregarding the Lord's direct and explicit command, presented only an offering of fruit. There was no token from heaven to show that it was accepted. Cain came before God with murmuring and infidelity in his heart and in regard to the promised sacrifice and the necessity of the sacrificial offerings. His gift expressed no penitence for sin. He felt that it would be an acknowledgement of weakness to follow the exact plan marked out by God of trusting his salvation wholly to the atonement of the promised Savior. He chose the course of self-dependence. He would come on his own merit. He would not bring the lamb and mingle its blood with his offering, but would present his fruits, the products of his labor. He presented his offering as a favor done to God, through which he expected to secure the divine approval. Cain obeyed in building an altar, obeyed in bringing a sacrifice, but he rendered only a partial obedience. The essential part, the recognition of the need of a redeemer, was left out. And this, it would seem, is what sparked the argument between the two brothers. Abel pleaded with his brother to approach God in the divinely prescribed way, but his entreaties only made Cain the more determined to follow his own will. As the eldest, he felt above being admonished by his brother and despised his counsel. Cain had the same opportunity of learning and accepting these truths as had Abel. He was not the victim of an arbitrary purpose. One brother was not elected to be accepted of God and the other to be rejected. Abel chose faith and obedience. Cain, unbelief and rebellion. Here the whole matter rested. It rested on the posture towards the 9-letter word, sacrifice. One elected to sacrifice all and paid with his life. The other decided to retain all and paid with the life of another. It may be early to tell, but something about sacrifice, obedience, and worship seems to suggest that they will have a big impact on human beings. Come to think of it, those 3 words spell the acronym SOW. And it seems Abel and Cain have sowed differently, and their sacrifices have panned out just as their sowing. Reporting for BBN, I am the DC.
Why does Jesus love me? It's a good question, and one that deserves a good answer. Why I love him, I know so well. But why he loves me, I cannot tell. Our reporter today did catch up with a close eyewitness who was on hand to spectate, sadly so, as this unfortunate event did happen. I want to warn the viewers that some of the descriptions might be unsettling or triggering, so please do listen in with caution. But please listen in to this interview between our very own reporter, the DC, and one of the eyewitnesses. Keep it BBN.
Let me tell you what happened. So me, I was just minding my business, like on a normal day. I usually just go, I give the horses food because that's just what I do every day. And then I see at the back, like, you know how normally you can just see people from the corner of your eye, So I'm just chilling, giving them food. And then from the corner of my eye, I see Cain and Abel. I see these 2 people. And I look and it's Cain and Abel. And something in my heart, in my gut, tell follow these people. But I'm like, hey, it's a normal process. They usually work together and they don't get along very well every day. But it's not something new. It's not something new. So I just let them be. And then I see them walk together, but there was something different about today. But I was like, let me continue with what they pay, because honestly, they don't pay me enough to mind my business and mind their mothers and then mind their sons business, you know. Anyway,
Mhm,
so I
mhm.
continue giving the cows food. I was giving horses food, and then I give the cows food, and then I see them walk. They're walking, and then I see the smoke going up. So I'm like, then I was right, because you know me, I'm always right. Like if there's something about me, reporter is
Mhm.
always right. Anyway,
Okay.
so the smoke goes up. The smoke goes up. And I'm like, okay, sour. These guys are good. And then I start hearing like a commotion. And you know, it's two brothers. Brothers argue all the time. Brothers argue all the time. And specifically this one, see eye to eye. Cain always has a problem. So something in my mind, because uh, Cain's voice is going up and Abel is going up too, which is not because Abel's voice doesn't go up. So I'm like, so because Abel's voice went up, I was like, hey, go see for myself because this does not happen. So I ran this way and I'm like, hey, what is going on? I don't speak, I don't talk. Sometimes we go there for the what? For the tea. I go and I see. Anyway, while I was getting close there, I see Abel. He does this. He chokes his brother like this. He chokes him like this, like this, like this. And you know, Abel was not expecting it, and Cain just did it. And then Abel could, but before this could happen, they were pushing each other. Cain pushes Abel, Abel pushes him. It was really crazy. It was really crazy. I've never seen anything like this. And so he holds him like this, and then what happens? And then he I don't know what people call it, but he slides his feet between his legs, and then Abel falls down. Oh my goodness! And that is where I saw like something demonic going to his eyes. It's like something I've never seen before. You know, he goes,
Mm.
he he starts hitting his brother on the floor, on the ground. He hits him. Abel is trying to fight him, but he's overpowered him. I don't even know what was going on. To scream. I'm trying to scream. I'm seeing people coming from the other side of the farm, but not fast enough. And it's like everything is in slow-mo. And I'm like, am I the one? Me, the Mudaku Mushene. How am I how am I going to stop it? You know? To run, they're trying
Mhm.
to run. It is not working. It is not working. Anyway, so before I get there, just because I get there, I see Cain just take a stone and he hits the brother, poop, and Cain just stops fighting. And that was it. That was
Oh
it.
my.
And then I'm telling you, it was bad. It was
Oh,
so bad.
yeah.
Anyway, so I just see Cain throwing his hands. It's like, I don't even know who he's talking to. So I told you he seemed possessed. Anyway, I don't know. I can't really say who he was talking to. He says, "Oh, I am not my brother's keeper," and then he starts going away. It was a lot. Even just telling you this story is taking a lot out of me. Ish, it was hard.
I'm so sorry, yeah, Miss Moshani, that you had to witness such a gruesome sight. And I have gotten an idea of your reaction to this whole incident. But what I would like you to tell me is, what is the general opinion of what is the general reaction of the people towards this whole incident?
We are shocked. We are flabbergasted. We are shocked that something like this could happen in our community, that a brother could turn against their own brother. That is unacceptable. But then we're
Mm,
also not shocked that we also know that the fact that it has happened could only mean that it could come from Cain, because Cain is the kind of brother who would do this to their own brother.
mm, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're trying to say. And uh, I don't know if you have managed to be in touch with Adam and Eve since this whole incident happened. I just wanted to find out how has this affected the family since this
Mm.
happened?
I'm just going to be honest with you, Madam Reporter. It has I have been so ashamed. I have been ashamed to go to Adam and Eve because I am the last person who saw them who saw them have their last normal lives. They have lost both their sons. Their Abel
Mm,
died and the other one just left.
yeah.
Their lives will never be the same. I don't even know how to have a conversation. I mean, how do I talk to the mother? I'm the last person who saw this happen. All
Yeah.
I can say is I hope Adam and Eve can get through this. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I haven't seen them. To answer your question, I haven't. I can only pray for them.
Okay. Um, thank you. And just one more question before I let you go. You mentioned how it was not surprising that this came from Cain and from Cain and that it happened to Abel. What I would like to know is, was this something that you would say was seen coming? Was this like a sudden development of Cain, or was this a change that has been happening gradually over time?
Mm, I cannot really say that it is shock. You know, some
Yeah.
things can be shock. But this boy came. He was born with what people from my country call a dirty heart. Kamati ya
Mm,
roho chafu. He was
yeah.
born. He was born with a dirty.
Yeah.
He he kept on making the wrong decisions after wrong decisions, and I don't know if that meant he became a bad person, but I know it meant he lived a life of poor decisions because he kept on giving God. I will give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, During time for giving sacrifices, like what triggered this whole situation, I'm sure, is
Yeah.
that he would give God the bare minimum, the worst of his what he had in terms of sacrifices,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Abel would give the best of what he had. And then he would have this jealousy, and then this jealousy would become a resentment. You see, these worst decisions that he kept on making would result into him resenting his own brother. And in turn, he made a bad decision of killing his own brother, which in
Yeah.
turn made him a bad person. So I don't know. He's
Yes.
just a bad, I don't know. I said what I said.
Yes. I see where I see what you mean, that this was not a surprising occurrence
Not
for
at
Cain's
all.
character.
Not at all. Not at all, Madam Reporter.
Hmm. But
Mhm.
anyway, thank you, Miss Mushane, for joining us here on BBN and for shedding some light on this whole Cain and Abel incident. And it's such a sad situation that is happening there at Eden View. And we hope that Adam and Eve and everybody at the estate will be able to get through this horrible ordeal, and they will manage to come out of this stronger. Thank you so much, Miss Dakwamashane, and you have yourself a good day.
What a sad day and a very sad development. And if there's one person who's been on top of this story and is able to help us gain an even clearer picture and deeper perspectives, it is our reporter, the DC, who has been on the ground, on the site, has collected unique perspectives, and has been able to come to studio to share this with us. The DC, do welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Saya. Yeah.
So once again, thank you for covering this story this far. And the first question to ask you is, are the whereabouts of Cain known?
Saya, right now, we do not know where Cain is, but witnesses say that he was seen headed towards the east, the land of Nod, and that's about as much as we know about Cain's whereabouts.
Did he leave for the land of Nod immediately after committing the crime, or did he linger around for some time and then leave?
According to the witnesses, no, he did not linger around. After the incident happened, he just picked up and left, and that was the last that was seen of him or heard of him here in Eden View.
Okay, so given this happened around the time of the midday offering, he should be close or almost arrived in the region of Nod. And for the interest of the viewer, the name Nod means wandering. And one thing that just comes naturally to the mind is, do we have any idea why, of all the places he could have gone, he chose to go to this place, Nod, the place of wandering? Any reason for that selection of geography?
Right now, the only thing that we can think about is the fact that he is trying to keep some distance between himself and the crime scene, maybe out of guilt, out of I don't know, regret, but that is the only thing that we can think about right now as to why he decided to go all the way towards Nod, just to keep his distance from the scene of the crime.
So, besides the guilt factor, sounds pretty obvious. Is there any other reason behind this? Geography is culture, an issue is values, an issue is any other thing that is motivating this decision?
I would say that yes, he's motivated by all those things because as we will hear from one of our witnesses, we will find out that Cain has been showing some changes in recent times, and that might be something that he has been struggling with for quite a while. So maybe he's also trying to break free from whatever he felt was holding him back here.
Mm-hmm. So interesting, very interesting developments. Are there security officers present on the ground, and as one would expect, is there like a hunt or something for Cain? What's the security situation? Where are the officers in this?
Right now, the officers are on ground. They have cordoned the Adam and Eve estate, and as far as I know, yes, there are agents that have been sent after Cain, and we're hoping to hear soon from them as to his whereabouts and whether they were able to capture him.
So you're saying Adam and Eve's estate right now is being treated as a scene of crime?
Yes, it is. No one is going in or coming out. The family is within the estate, and we are yet to hear from them.
Is there and you've just already alluded to that. What's a mood with the family? What are they saying? What's a state with Eve and Adam and the rest of the family members?
Right now, Adam and Eve are yet to give a public statement or a press release as to what their feelings of this whole incident is. They have yet to speak to us, and from what I saw of them earlier on, because we did manage to see Adam and Eve as they were being escorted into their house, they seemed to be pretty broken about this whole thing, that one of their sons could kill their other son. It's difficult to imagine what they are going through right now, Saya. Like we can't even imagine.
Yes, we had death as a concept, and now we've experienced death as a reality, and it's hard for anyone to imagine. There are really no words. Are Cain's next steps known? I mean, this is a man with some significant amount of charisma and clout, having been the elder son to the first family, and he's clearly being led by something we're yet to understand, and he's out on the loose. Are there are corners which are having genuine concerns that this could move from just being charisma and it could become a cult of sorts and create all manner of harm within the society he's gone to. Is there from your feeling being on the ground and being around, are there similar concerns about Cain moving from just being a rebellious, charismatic individual to becoming a full-blown cult leader?
Yeah, I think so, Saya. Right now, what we do know is that the authorities are looking out for any signs that he might want to spread whatever nefarious ideas that he has. And they are trying to sort of, they're trying to keep an eye on whatever ideas he has or activities that he plans to do as he heads towards the east. And we're hoping that he will not plant any more seeds of rebellion and of mischievousness wherever he goes. So yes, the authorities are keeping an eye out for him, and we're hoping that he will not be able to spread whatever ideas he has right now.
Okay, not too long from now, we'll be bringing in a psychology professor, and he probably will help us understand more about some telltale signs and dangerous things to look for. So, Dadisi, we totally appreciate this. Is heavy for everyone, and we thank you for your courage to keep following up on this story. That was
No
our
problem,
reporter.
Saya. Thank you.
That has been our reporter, Dadisi, fresh from the ground where the murder of Abel and by Cain has occurred, giving us an update of everything. Don't stay far away. We will keep you posted. For now, want to leave you with this item of reflection. My father is a very pragmatic and a very creative teacher. He would extract life lessons from other most weird places. On one occasion, he called our attention, myself together with my siblings, to a glass of milk. And on close observation of the glass of milk, there was flies that were around. Specifically, some were on the rim of the glass, and there were initially one or two within the milk. Flies that were on the rim of the glass seemed to imagine that they are drowning or dead fellows below were having such a mighty fun time, and that's the reason they were not able to come back. And in a bid to have a piece of the fun, they would leave the safe haven of the rim of the glass and make it to the dead end of the promised sea of white below. What might look as a mundane story tucked somewhere in my past is actually real, and probably more real and more applicable in your life and in my life today. Imagine how many times you have made decisions that moved you from a place and a locus of safety and prosperity, and one that was more in synchrony with your purpose in life, and made it all the way across to a whole new place, a whole new life outlook, which proved to be disastrous, if not retarding your progress. All because you imagined that the prospects that lay on the other side were better than where you are. To put it in everyday English, we say the grass on the other side seems greener. The book lays out 4 important things to be able to consider. Question number 1, what is the grass growing on? That's called the question of foundation. Question number 2, the question of effort, which simply asks, have I done the best and the most I can with my patch of grass, whatever that grass represents? Question number 3 is a question of artificiality, which asks, is that grass real or fake grass? Fourth and finally is ask yourself the question, when it is all said and done, what do I want to be remembered? What do I want to leave behind? These 4 questions this book handles and tackles in depth, drawing from the examples of both contemporary and people gone by who've been able to experience various challenges directly related to the attractiveness of the greenness of the grass on the other side of the hill. In this will be laid gems that will be able to help you, like flies on the glass of milk. So it is with our lives. But before we drown unnecessarily, won't you pause and pick a copy of When the Grass is Green on the Other Side? To help us gain a further perspective about everything that has transpired, it is my privilege to, in this day, bring before us our very own renowned professor and criminologist and psychologist, the one and very own Professor Urui. Professor Urui, welcome.
Indeed, I am both honored and privileged to be part of this scientific and intellectual engagement, an area that I have lots and vast of expertise in.
So, first question to you on this particular incident. From your analysis of everything, is this passion or was this planned?
Well, this is a pure textbook, open and shut case of crime by passion that is actually based on a triad of facets of facts that I will explain in detail that will leave no doubt in you about this being a crime of passion. Fact number one, there is no iota of effort whatsoever to clean up the crime scene, which is found to be in a mess. The deceased victim is still found there with blood oozing from him. The pillars that they had used for their offerings, or should I say for their worship, are still standing with the sacrificial items still on top of them. This particular man does not try whatsoever. There is no out of effort to try and clear up. Instead, he starts running away, clearly indicating that it's not something he had been deliberating upon, but all happened because of an instant anger within him. Fact number two, the timing of the crime is very, very important. It happens during the hours of worship, and we do not hear prior to these particular hours of worship if there was no verbal or physical exchange of an argument between these two people in any forum whatsoever. They went about their daily activities, daily routine, and when it was time for them to be able to go and worship in terms of offering sacrifices, they did it as usual. So we do not see anything that provoked this particular person to commit this heinous crime. Then fact number three is the object that was used to commit this heinous act. We find that it is a crude weapon, probably a stone that was found within the area of vicinity, showing that as he boiled up in anger, his hands tried to grasp whatever he could reach with, and it laid on this particular object that he used to hurl with so much effort towards the victim to the point of death. If it could have been either a knife that was carried under his skin or a spear that he came with during the time of this particular worship, we could have thought of it being premeditated. But because he just found whatever he could find and used it to commit the act of this absolute heinous crime, then it shows that actually it was passion that drove him and not premeditation.
Oh, very well. I see then from everything you've explained, from the arrangement of the articles on the scene to the manner in which the body was disposed to the fleeing of Cain from the scene, then you come to the conclusion that this was more an act of passion than it was planned. But that begs the question, how does somebody otherwise normal and even charismatic like Cain moves so quickly from the position of normal, well-fitted person in society to becoming now a murderer on the loose? When did the change happen between those particular levels?
Various reasons could be attributed as to what actually led and to the culmination of this particular act, and it will be from a multifocal kind of point of view. But I will just try to point out the common reasons so that our viewers and listeners can be able to see and connect the dots as to what could probably have led to this particular person to commit this crime. First of all, life is a routine. Day in, day out, we have things that we do repeatedly. Therefore, there is this wear and tear of doing the same repeated thing day after day, week after week, month in, month out, year in, year out, a decade, and so on and so forth. And for this particular man, he was a farmer, so it was planting, harrowing, harvesting, drying, storing, planting, season after season, year after year. It is known that when we do these things repeatedly, sometimes it causes wear and tear of both the physical and mental faculties. And if you don't have some checks and balances to be able to look at this wear and tear, it leads to outbursts such as the one we've been able to see today. Secondly, we have things that we call as hard knocks of life. Things that just come and knock you without you expecting. It could be a disappointment. It could be a betrayal here. It could be some expectation that you wanted but didn't come. These hard knocks and hard blows that hit you here and there. If you don't have internal mechanisms to be able to sustain the breaks of these knocks, it can be able to lead you to break down and commit crimes as the one we've witnessed. Last and not least is the expectations that people have in us in life. Every individual has some level of expectation, and in this case, Cain was not an exception. I'm sure he was privy to the information about him being probably the expected Messiah that his parents had been told about by the Lord Almighty. Immediately they sinned in even in the Eden bliss. So a lot of expectations was probably on his shoulder because Adam and Eve thought that this could be the seed that the Father, God Almighty, had talked about, and hence he had these expectations heaped upon him, and his life probably was contrary to the expectations that were laid upon him. And this could also be a contributing factor to what led to him committing this crime. I'm not saying that this is what led. I'm just saying that a combination of these factors and more could have probably attributed to him ultimately coming to the point that he actually breaks down and decides to take his brother's life in such an animalistic kind of way that I cannot condone whatsoever.
Very well, Professor Rui. One of the questions that is nagging at the minds of some people and other commentators on this is, where does this go next? Cain is a known, charismatic individual, and he possesses all these abilities. Now he has taken this direction. Is there room for us to be concerned that he would move from being charismatic to becoming a cult leader?
For us to be able to know whether it will lead for him to be a cult or not, first of all, I am a scientific person, so we'll go to definitions. We'll define what a cult is, and basically a cult is a group of people following an orthodox religious or philosophical teachings, especially that lead to them being alienated from the general public, and they have tendencies of showing a strong devotion towards one charismatic leader. Looking at that definition, this boy is showing some or two signs of being a cult, but I'm not authoritatively saying that his actions and behavior will lead to cultism, but he's showing some tendency. One, he has that charismatic kind of leadership that we can see boiling in him. Secondly, he's showing tendency of alienation. Immediately after committing the act, he decides to run towards the land of Nod. Thirdly, if this man shows these charismatic efforts and tends to galvanize and coalesce people around himself and starts showing dictatorial tendencies of telling these people to follow his thoughts, his ideologies without any question, then that will boil down to becoming a cult. But this is basically a matter of time, a matter of wait and see, because we say any successful formula, time is a very important ingredient, and this is what we shall be able to use to see whether it shall evolve for him being a cult or showing cult-like tendencies.
So what I hear you saying is, from the classical definition of occultism or moving into a cult, that Cain is not exactly there now, but he already has some inclinations, and he has already isolated himself. He possesses the charisma, and now we just need to be on the lookout if he begins becoming authoritarian and totalitarian. Indeed. Thank you, Professor Rui, for your time, and thank you for your perspectives about everything. We do appreciate this, and thank you for making time to be with us.
Thank you very much. Next time you need some intellectual expert, I'm always at your disposal.
That was Professor Rui coming to give us a further analysis about the events that have transpired on this very sad day. To help us think through these things, I'd like to leave us with this piece of reflection. To stay tuned to BBN.